our journey continues. We are going on with completing every single player Final Fantasy game. Main series, right? Yes, there's spin-offs and all kinds of things, but main series base game. Yes, I know of X2 and 13, 1, 2, and 3 or whatever, but the goal is to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, and of course 16. And we've only got 4 remaining, and we did not do the TDP channel for the other ones, but don't worry, we will get you caught up in the main channel videos where we're going to do deep dive reviews into these games. But 15. So the way we've been doing it recently, if you're not aware and you haven't followed the stream, is we do, as we came down to the last few, is we do an old school one, and then we do a modern one, old school, modern one to finish them up, because the remaining games are 2, 5, 15, and 13. Those are the ones that are left for us to do. And we recently finished 3, so now it was time for a modern one, and we roll the dice. It's either 15 or 13, and 15 won. I come into this cautiously to say during our stream conversations and online interactions that people get very vocal about 15, either positive or negative, would be an understatement. Some people get physically angry about it. Some people get into a real weird mindset about the whole thing. So, mixed. And one thing I like to do is go in and figure it out myself. That's what we want to do. I'm going to go in as blind as I can. Now, here's the twist on this one. And there is a twist on this one that doesn't apply to literally any of the other single-player games. I do know some things about 15 because it has been streamed on my channel before, but just not by me. Sony actually sent us Final Fantasy 15 when it launched, which I think was 2016, with the Kingsglaive movie. So they wanted to send it to us to stream it, and we did do that. But it was Andy that played it, who worked here at the time. I was working on other things in the background, but of course we had conversations about the game after a stream session or whatever. I don't remember pretty much anything. I'll be honest, I don't, because we talk about thousands of games. So the intricacies of the game, I don't really remember. But I do remember some things. I do remember what the end of the game is, like the very, very last part of the game. I do know what that is. And I knew something that happened to a character midway through the game because it was a very big deal, and that stuck in my memory as something that happened. What I don't have, though, I just want to be clear, this doesn't spoil the game in any way. I have no context for those things happening. I have no emotional investment. I do not know what the story of this game is at all. I've seen Kingsglaive because we watched it at the time, but I don't know, like, leading up to any of these points, why it matters, who did it, or why. I don't know any of the who, how, why, or when. I don't know any of that stuff. So it's not a big deal. I just know, like, certain points that happen. That's it. Why they happen or anything, I don't know. So it's as blind as I could be, but I'm not going to lie to you guys and say it's not. I'm going to TLDR this. I don't see the problem with this game so far. So far. I do not see the problem with this whatsoever. I think immediately the combat system... I'm going to talk about the combat first. So... I was curious as to what was on the map after I got into the game and saw, like, there's some herbalism. I was like, I'm going to grab that, or some mining or something, and then ended up in an absolute nightmare war. I was level 1 versus, like, a huge amount of level 8s and level 4s. Like, the sky was filled with it. But, as I always tell you guys, when it comes to learning to play a game, the tougher and trickier the situation, the more you learn more quickly. You really up to speed it. And by the end of that fight, I had got a good handle on most of the mechanics. It started rough, and then by the end of it, and I did win, I was like, oh, I see how this works. I see how this works. Okay, started to make sense to me right now. The combat system, I quite like. I've got a favorite weapon. I'm not sure why we're conjuring weapons from seemingly the ethereal plane, but I guess because we're warriors, or kings of light, as it mentioned. We're not warriors of light anymore. We're kings of light, although we're a prince. He got underway. So the combat system I'm very much enjoying right now. I haven't messed around with magic too much. I know it's in there, and there's huge skill trees which are very reminiscent of, like, FF10. So I'm very curious how that's going to play out as well. But so far, so good on that side. So I was like, okay, the combat system works for me. It's fast-paced. It's got limit breaks. Cool. And they all kind of do a different thing and apply to different enemies. Thumbs up. No complaints. Let's talk about the story a little bit. One thing I was definitely aware of, because who isn't, is the boy band meme about this game. Boy bands on tour, right? You're in the car, you're a boy band. That's not true. In fact, I would go as far as to say, so far, we're talking up to chapter 2 here, their relationship as friends and how it's portrayed is actually phenomenally done well. It's really good. It's really, really good. They didn't come across as cheesy or ridiculous or zany like, you know, we would see in 9 or 10 or something like that, or 8s especially. Whoa, dude. No, they came across as genuine friends who have known each other probably since they were kids. And I really was surprised. I was genuinely surprised. I was like, this isn't cringe, like, at all in any way. Their outfits to me are cringe, like what they're wearing, but I've changed that now. But the actual interactions between the characters and the different roles they play in sort of Nupss's Royal Guard worked. It landed for me. Like, I was surprised myself. I really was. I was like, I'm kind of dreading this, especially after the other Final Fantasies, as to how really lame some of the characters are and some of the things they do. If I think about Zidane, I know people love Zidane, but Zidane does some really cheesy things, and a lot of the interactions with like Dagger and so are like, oh my god, like in across the games, be it certainly from 7 upwards, really sort of like toe curling sometimes, and that's not what I got from this. One thing that did surprise me, and I think it's done intentionally because I don't doubt the ability of the voice actor, is the one that's not working for me is Nupss. Every other character so far, if I'm looking, I'm bringing this up because I noticed it, right? Not because I'm looking for flaws or anything like that, but I was like, some of the delivery of Nupss's lines are not good, but I think it's supposed to be that way because Nupss is kind of a shell of himself. One particular moment that stood out for me was upon finding out that his father had been killed. He just goes, "Oh no."
The Imperial Army has taken the Crown City.
As treaty room tempers flared, blast lit the night sky. When the smoke about the Citadel had cleared, the king was found dead.
No, wait. Hold on.
We had no way of knowing.
What? Knowing what?
That the signing was last night. That insomnia.
But the wedding! Altissia!
I know. That was the plan. Yet the reports of the invasion are all the same. How could every headline in the kingdom be wrong?
Lies. If only.
Without being rude, Nupss's voice actor is the weakest of the bunch.
What else do we know?
But I was like, he's kind of coming across as dead inside or not believing it and things like that. So I gave it like a pass, but it wasn't just that moment. It was like lots of other ones. Whereas even Prompto, who's the sort of like the Michelangelo of the group, all right, if we compare him to the Turtles, is not cringe. I was actually surprised. He's much more goofy and fun-loving, but in a way that like you would have as a friend, not somebody who's like, Jesus Christ, why is this guy here? And I know people feel this a different way. It's just that coming into this and thinking about this boy band aspect, pushing the car is possibly one of the best openers to a video game of establishing a connection between your fellow party members that I've seen. It's so simple and so well done of each of them showing their traits, having fun, but still all working together. And it very much reminded me of when I've had to do those things with my friends. Certainly in college, when we all had cheap, nasty cars that would break down and we'd have to push them and move them and do all those kind of things. And everyone's just giving each other banter, right? You're all shooting the noise, but you're still getting on with it because it needs doing, but you can moan about it, you can meme on it, but you're all still getting involved. I really liked it. I actually very much enjoyed it. The gameplay has been, you know what, I'm really enjoying this game so far. Whimsy is back. FF16 really put me on a downer, and I talked about that a lot, and I know a lot of people disagreed with me, but as much as I love 16, and I do, it was just so dark and miserable that it became comical to me. This one is already full of whimsy. Like, really is. That joyfulness that I expect, even in a dour, even with the world apocalypse falls down upon your head in Final Fantasy games, the whimsy is there. A big mission to feed a fish a cat. Feed a cat a fish. Feed a cat a fish. But the fish is bigger than the cat. And then the cat refuses to eat it because it sticks up its nose at you. So you have to get it cooked at like a 5-star restaurant for this cat to get it. And then you have to go fishing and it's like epic music. You still have Prompto, which I saw in FF7 Rebirth after a fight concludes. but it obviously came from here. And the fact that you could just go and buy the old soundtracks for the car and just rock out to FF4 soundtrack or whatever that you find and you enjoy, that's great. It's silly, it's fun. That's what I want to see in between the fact that my father just died and now this, like, Magitech army is descending upon the world and everything's dour. And then at the same time, you can rock around in a Moogle hat and it's fine. You could do all those kinds of things. So that whimsy is there, which I want from a Final Fantasy game. And that's what I want to see because it's so good to keep that pace going with the good and the bad. You want it to be silly and fun, and then you want some other things going on. Some light RPG elements so far, which have been cool as well. But that's, so far the story is, that's not my current thoughts on it. We definitely have met who is the ultimate bad guy. There was a guy wearing like 4 scarves and 3 coats, essentially. Clearly a bad guy. There's no getting away from that. But I don't know his name yet or whatever he's about. But I have to say, the first chapter, one thing, okay, a couple of concerns though. Not everything's perfect and wonderful. The leveling system. The idea of banking all your XP and then finding places that give you XP modifiers when it actually tallies it up. So if you're not sure what I mean, instead of you killing monsters and earning XP and it applying to an XP bar, it goes into like a pot. So you have a pot of XP. So let's say you've earned 1,000 XP. You actually haven't earned that yet. It's not been applied to the characters. It's just in this bucket of XP. And then when you rest, either by going to a tent or a campsite or staying at a hotel, that's when it gives you the XP. And depending on where you stay, it will be... I found a place that did double XP. So it would take my bucket and double it. So I would get twice as much benefit from that experience. The start of the game had me doing hunts like we had in FF12. And I was like, okay, I know the hunt system. I'm going to mess around with this and see what it goes on with. And I did that because that was kind of the first thing the game asked me to do. So I was like, okay, I'm going to check out the hunts and work on my hunt level as we're doing the main story. I feel like I already massively out-leveled the game, and it's chapter 1. To give you context, the main story mission is level 2. I'm level 11. Like, already? And I haven't done anything weird. I've just been doing, like, bits and pieces of the area. Like, and it said, oh, but when you leave this area, you won't be returning for a while. So I was like, okay, so I'll just finish the hunts that are available to me, besides the ones that are, like, 10 levels higher, because you barely do any damage. I did do one that was 8 levels higher than me. And I was like, okay, this just takes a really long time, because we're completely, you know, at level inappropriate. We could do it because a lot of the combat is skill-based, which I like, but ultimately this is a bad idea. So I was like, okay, we'll move on, and it does say we come back, we'll probably be more level appropriate, and then it's like, oh, main story, level 2. I'm like, I'm level 11 now? And a lot of the enemies are just melting and falling over, so I'm a little wary already that main story may be really easy, or maybe it'll readjust itself as we go on. I don't know. I have no idea where it goes, but I will let you guys know when we get there. So, I'll see you then. Bye, guys.